This is the WMD Synchrodyne and the Synchrodyne Expand. Together they form a deep and powerful set of tools that I think is unique in the modular world. This is going to be the first video in a series of videos that I'm going to call Synchrodyne Thursdays. These are going to be short videos, maybe like 3 to 5 minutes long, that explore the many functions that exist within these two paired modules. So these are not going to be in place of what I consider the main content of the channel. I'll still be putting out videos roughly once a week, every Monday or Tuesday, that explore maths and general modular concepts. The Synchrodyne isn't very common, so I feel like if I were to use these as the main content, it would displace the normal videos and people would lose interest. Because if you don't have one or you're not interested in one, it would kind of monopolize the channel. Because there's so much to talk about between these two modules. So with that amount of fertile ground, there's room for learning and exploration. I've had these for a few months now, and I'm still trying to figure things out. So if you are interested in modules that have an almost limitless learning curve, or a high ceiling for development, this is almost a lifetime of learning on just these two modules, which I could say the same for my main rack. So by having both of them, clearly I'm going to live twice as long as the normal person, which is just another benefit of Eurorack. But what is the Synchrodyne and the Synchrodyne Expand? The Synchrodyne was one of the modules that WMD came out with several years ago. And by covering it, I am committing to my tireless efforts to bring you all the latest news on modules that are 5 years old or older. But the Synchrodyne is comprised of three main functions: the oscillator, the phase-locked loop, and the filter. They're all tied together. In one of the videos for the Synchrodyne, WMD mentioned that the point of it is to be a filter, but really it's a toolbox. This whole setup is a toolbox, and we're going to explore all of it. The Synchrodyne Expand is an expansion to the Synchrodyne, and in fact there's several cables in the back that link them together. And if you really want to get me going, you give me modules with expandable slots and other modules that connect in the back, because I think that's just about as neat as it gets. So the Synchrodyne Expand has its own oscillator, phase lock loop, and filter, but it also adds a whole bunch of other inputs and outputs that go directly to the original Synchrodyne. It adds more control over everything. It adds control over the wave folder. It adds a compressor. It adds another input for this filter. There's normalizations between several of the inputs and outputs here. These modules are known to be capable of making far out and crazy noises, but we're going to take a more methodical approach rather than just sort of writing them off as a noise box, which they excel at. And I think these are great tools along the lines of like kind of the music from outer space tools, where you can just by themselves you can create some very interesting noises and timbres. So my general plan is to go through a lot of the basic functionality. I'm going to go through the layout of the Synchrodyne. I'm going to go through some of the normalizing things that are going on in here. We're going to go through the flow chart. We're going to talk about what a phase-locked loop, or PLL, is and how it functions. We're going to talk about switched capacitor filters, of which I don't believe there is another one in Eurorack. We're going to talk about all kinds of other things. If you've ever wondered if I have more modules than just what's in the rack that I use for my normal videos, the answer is yes. And it's just this. So I have this plus my normal rack. I think this by itself could be its own modular system. If you were to add a few envelopes and maybe a couple more VCAs, you'd have enough for anything. You could probably, with some narrow utility modules, fill up just this 48 HP skiff and have a very competent system. So this skiff usually houses my touch plate controller, the Lifeforms. I'm in the process. I have to build up a new skiff just for the Synchrodyne, but I'm not going to let that stop me. We're going to keep going ahead, and the controller can wait. But I have my power supply all made up. fact, I just showed this in another video, but this is the power supply I'll be using for the dedicated Synchrodyne skiff, which I will be calling the Synchrodynamometer, because everything needs a good name. So like I said, this is just the introduction to what will be a long playlist and series of videos. We'll be going over all sorts of topics over the next couple of months. And trust me, there's months worth of learning and information in just these two modules. It's a really cool setup, and I'm pretty excited for this, for my own purposes, if nothing else. So I hope you look forward to these videos and learning about this crazy deep set of modules.